What's going on, everyone? It's Brody here again, back to answer one of the probably most common questions that I find that a lot of people are looking for an answer to, and it's whether or not I should just restring my racket or if I should just buy a new one. And the answer is, as you've probably guessed from many of the videos on this channel, it depends. Now, if you have a tennis racket that is like, you bought it for $25, $30 at your local store or Walmart or something, you probably shouldn't restring that racket, because there's a high chance that if you restring that racket and when the stringer goes to pull tension on it, on the string, it's just going to snap and break. And then you're out of a racket. You paid for the string service as well as you paid for the string, and you don't get recouped the fee. So those rackets, you probably shouldn't restring. But on the other hand, if you have a racket that you've bought and say you've been playing with it for a while, you got a good decent price range around it, a racket that's typically between, like I've mentioned before, around the $80 and above range, most likely you just need to restring the racket, because if you've been playing with it for a while, the strings are probably just dead. They've lost a lot of tension, so they aren't as crisp, and you have a more of a dead feeling string. Besides that, even if you haven't played with the string that much, something that also happens is just if strings are sitting, whether or not you play with them, they do lose tension because they just aren't being pulled. So they're slightly giving a little bit in how tight they are, no matter what happens. So that's why if you leave your racket out in the sun because of the heat and everything and how the strings are affected by that, you begin to lose tension because they loosen up. If you're playing in the cold, or if it gets cold where you are and you just leave your strings out, then they can also tighten and just make it to where you don't like it because you're not used to that setup, because it changed on you without you knowing. If you didn't know that before, not a lot of people do, but now you know, so that you can look out for that. You really don't want to leave your tennis bag with your rackets in the car overnight anyway. Not only the fact that can they get stolen, but also just for the fact that the weather can change how the string plays, whether that be for good or for bad. So that's something that you really want to take into account with everything. Now, other than that, if you just got a fresh set of strings and you don't like how they're playing, you've played with the string before, you've noticed that you like what the string does because you've used it in another racket, but for some reason you switch to this one, might be time to get a new racket. Start demoing a few. Don't ever just go out and buy a brand new racket without demoing it first, just because you don't know what's going to happen. The only time you ever buy a racket without knowing what's going to happen is either you have bought one first and you're just buying a second one, or you're just getting into the game and you're looking for the recommendation of a professional who will actually steer you in the right direction. If you're just beginning into the game, you don't really need to go and get the over $200 ones. Usually around that $80 to maybe $120 price range works perfect for you. The racket will last for a few years, as well as get you a good introduction to the game. But other than that, those are really the main reasons why you would want to just get your racket restrung. Your strings have probably lost tension. If they are hurting your arm and they've been in there for a while, that can be a reason. You just need a new fresh set, because the ones in your racket have gone dead. They don't play that well. You don't feel the ball, and just it's not comfortable. Oh, another thing, if you're playing with dead strings, you could also potentially get tennis elbow, which not fun. You don't want to get. It's not a good time at all. So getting restrung is a pretty necessary requirement for tennis. Most people will say that you should get your racket restrung however many times a week you play is however many times a year you should get your racket restrung. Now, that's been kind of like other people's baselines for getting your rackets restrung. To me, I didn't like that personally, because it doesn't take into account how long you're playing for, what what level you're playing at, what type of string you're using. So the way that I came up with for myself, and others may have found it first, but I found it first, to my knowledge, is that if you just go to the 2 strings going straight down the middle of your racket, and you take your 2 fingers, you put your fingers on the sides of them, and then you try and squeeze your fingers inward. If those strings move very easily, then you're probably looking at it's time to get restrung. If there's still a lot of force that's stopping you from getting those strings to move, you're most likely good. Your strings are probably fresh, but if it's been longer than a year, regardless of how they feel, just get them restrung. You don't want to run the risk of hurting your arm, because then you can't play tennis anymore, and as well as then you might have to go to the doctor, pay the doctor's fees and all the medical bills, and none of that's fun. No one wants to be doing that. We just want to go out, play the sport we love, and just have a good time. So, with that being said, if you got any value from this video, leave a like, comment down below any more questions that you may have so that I can answer them personally and help you along with your tennis journey. Share this video with a friend if you got any value from it, or if you know someone who is just wanting to get their racket restrung, or they're right on the edge of like, do I like this racket or do I just hate the string? Send them this video. It should be pretty helpful for them, because I took it upon myself to get rid of a lot of the misinformation that gets spread in the tennis community, just from all of the misinformation I saw with my time working with people in the tennis community with shoes, rackets, strings, equipment, all of it. So that's why I'm here with this channel, to make sure that the right information gets out to the people who need it. So, like I said, leave a like, comment down below, subscribe to the channel so that I can help more people and get other people in the tennis community the right information. And as always, take care.